Just to be whoever you are is no disgrace. Don't be scared if you don't fit in. Look who's in the reject bin. It's the Raggy Dolls.
Raggy Dolls.
Raggy Dolls.
Raggy Dolls.
Dolls like you and me. Raggy Dolls.
Raggy Dolls.
Raggy Dolls.
Raggy Dolls.
Made him perfectly. So if you got a bump on your nose or lumps on your toes, do not despair. Be like the Raggy Dolls and say I just don't care. 'Cause Raggy Dolls,
Raggy Dolls.
Raggy Dolls,
Raggy Dolls.
are happy just to be Raggy Dolls, Raggy Dolls, dolls like you and me.
The Raggy Dolls were on a long sailing trip in their boat, the Spirit of Adventure. Sadsack was below decks, brewing up a pot of tea and worrying about whether or not they'd brought enough food.
Honestly, Sadsack,
Sighed Princess.
sometimes I think that food is all you care about.
It's better to be safe than sorry,
Observed Sadsack wisely.
Where's that tea?
Called Dot.
Steering this boat is thirsty work.
I'm coming.
Called Sadsack. The Raggy Dolls had come a long way. The river was getting wider and wider, and they could almost smell the sea. The water was also getting more and more choppy, and the Spirit of Adventure began to sway and bob up and down on the waves. This made carrying mugs of tea quite difficult,
Sorry.
said Sadsack, handing Dotty less than half a mugful.
Oh, well, can't be helped.
Shrugged Dotty.
Maybe I should go and help myself. Take over the wheel, Sadsack.
Aye, aye.
Sadsack took over the wheel. It was the first time he'd ever done so, and he had to admit it was quite good fun.
No wonder Dotty always wants to steer, I thought.
Bother!
Exclaimed Dotty from below decks, spilling even more tea. Thought Sadsack.
The water looks calmer over there.
He turned the wheel and headed towards some distant cliffs. Seagulls squealed and swooped overhead as Captain Sadsack steered his faithful crew towards calmer waters and full mugs of tea. But suddenly, the Spirit of Adventure jarred to a halt. Sadsack had steered straight into a sandbank. The sudden stop sent everyone tumbling. The Raggy Dolls groaned and picked themselves up,
What's happened?
said Lucy in alarm.
We're not going to sink, are we? No, we've run aground.
Said Dotty. Sadsack sat by the helm, nursing a rather nasty bump on the head.
I'd have probably done the same thing.
Said Dotty.
Those sandbanks are very difficult to see, even when they're only just underwater. Oh, well,
Said Princess.
I suppose we'll just have to make the best of it.
Yeah, no problem, said Back to Front. At least we can all have a proper cup of tea now.
Hello there! You in the boat?
Called a voice.
Are you needing some help?
It was a Norwegian seal. He studied the Raggy Dolls kindly with his big black eyes.
Oh, how do you do?
Said Dotty.
We seem to have run aground. I don't suppose you could give us a push or something?
The seal shook his head.
It wouldn't be doing any good,
He said.
The tide is coming lower all the time now. Soon there will be nothing but sand.
Oh, dear.
Said Princess.
It looks as if we are marooned.
Yep, high and dry, agreed Back to Front.
Oh, my head.
Moaned Sadsack.
That's a nasty bump you've got there, Sadsack.
Said Lucy, examining his head.
I'll fetch the first aid kit.
While Lucy bandaged Sadsack's head, the Raggy Dolls listened as the seal explained what they could do. It would be another 6 hours before high tide, but by then it would be midnight. They could either find somewhere on land to spend the night, or be tossed up and down like a cork on the high tide.
Said Dotty. Ideally, we should find a place on land. Sadsack needs a proper rest.
But how do we get to the land? Demanded Claude. We cannot use the boat.
Don't worry,
Said the seal.
when the tide is coming lowest, you can walk all the way. Easy for you, but not for me, eh?
The seal raised one of his flippers as if to explain. What about the boat? Said Hi-Fi. We can't just leave it here.
I will be looking after the boat, said the seal. And when the tide is coming in, I will be bringing it to you, yeah?
The Raggy Dolls thanked the friendly seal and loaded up with supplies for the night. It was a long trek across the sandbanks, and when at last the Raggy Dolls reached land, their arms ached from carrying things, but worse still, there seemed to be no way up the cliffs. The rocks below the high water mark were all slippery and impossible for the dolls to climb.
We'd better spread out, ordered Dotty. We have to find a way up before high tide.
Leaving poor Sadsack resting against a rock, the Raggy Dolls began to search up and down the long line of cliffs. Sadsack began to wish they had never set off on this trip. The evening sun was still very hot, and he needed to find some shade. He looked around. Nearby, a huge boulder cast a long, welcoming shadow. Sadsack crawled over to it. It would have made a perfect resting place, but for a thin, pointed rock that stuck straight up. Sadsack tried to push it out of the way, and, to his surprise, it moved quite easily. To his even greater surprise, there was a grinding, grating noise, and part of the cliff face slowly opened up. It was a secret door. Sadsack looked around for the others, but there was no one in sight. He decided to investigate on his own. Inside the secret door, it was very dark. Sadsack could just see the beginnings of some stone steps leading up. As he felt his way towards them, his hand touched another pointed stone, and the secret door began to close, and Sadsack was trapped in the dark. The others were very worried indeed when they returned and found no sign of Sadsack. None of them had been able to find a way up, and now the tide was beginning to come in very quickly.
Oh, dear,
wailed Lucy.
What are we going to do? Where's Sadsack?
Here I am,
called Sadsack from a ledge high above the Raggy Dolls' heads. In no time at all, Sadsack explained about the pointed rock and the secret door. The Raggy Dolls scrambled up the stone steps and joined Sadsack in a large cave halfway up the cliffs. Lucy gave Sadsack a big hug.
Oh, Sadsack, thank goodness you're all right. And thank goodness you found that secret way up,
said Dotty in the mouth of the cave.
Look how fast the tide is.
By nightfall, the sea was up to the high water mark and filling half the floor of the cave, like a natural harbour.
What is going to happen now?
Demanded Claude. Dotty smiled and shrugged her shoulders.
We make ourselves comfortable and have something to eat.
Hello there! You, in the cave!
It was the friendly seal. He had brought the spirit of adventure. He pushed the boat into the cave with his nose.
Ah, I see you found the smuggler's cave.
The seal was amazed to learn about the secret door and how lucky the Raggy Dolls had been.
By golly, he said. I didn't know that. I only know about swimming, not climbing.
Never mind now, said Lucy. Thanks for bringing the boat back.
You're welcome,
said the seal, and with a quick flip, he was gone. The Raggy Dolls suddenly felt very tired. It had been a long, long day.
I'm sorry I got you all into this mess,
yawned Sadsack.
Nonsense, said Dotty. It's not every day you find a smuggler's cave. I think it's quite exciting.
Yeah, agreed Back to Front. There'll be lots to explore tomorrow.
Mais oui, said Claude. Remember, mon ami, you said so yourself. It is better to be safe than sorry, n'est-ce pas?
But Sadsack was already asleep, and very soon, so were all the others.
Raggy dolls, dolls like you and me. Raggy dolls, made imperfectly. So if you're not at ease with your knobbly knees and your fingers are all thumbs, then stand on your two left feet and join our Raggy Doll chums. 'Cause Raggy dolls are happy just to be Raggy dolls,